Hi, welcome. I'm so thrilled to be here with Jamie Lee Murphy. Welcome, Jamie.
Hi, thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
Yay. So, Jamie Lee is a spiritual counselor. She's the owner of the Vessel of Divine Wellness, a certified emotion code practitioner, a shamanic practitioner, and energy healer. And really, her vibration and mission is to help us to lead an authentic life. And Jamie is part of the Wealth Codes book along with me and a collaboration of authors, which I'm so excited to be launching soon. And her chapter is on awareness. It's sort of our rocket fuel. And I'm really excited to kind of dive into what that means for you, and how you came to really sort of bring this into fruition is one of the most important pillars for us to find our wealth. So I guess like my first question for you is, why is this part of wealth codes? Like if we talk about awareness, what is important to you about awareness? Like why would that be important? Like why do I need to be aware or self-aware in order to lead what we might call like a wealthy life? Like wealth, when we talk about, I would imagine all areas. Like we've got our health, we have our money, we've got our relationships, we've got our career. So why is awareness sort of this pillar for you?
Yeah. And so, whenever it comes to wealth codes, the section that I chose is vitality. And so, I'm really linking awareness, right? Like, that's that first stage to leading an authentic life. Because if you're not aware, then you don't really have clarity on who you are.
Hmm.
You don't know how to move forward. And sometimes you just kind of feel stuck. And so, whenever we don't have that awareness piece, we're probably not living an authentic life.
Hmm.
And the really big connection and correlation here is that there is a huge link between living an authentic life and the level of vitality that you have in your life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I sort of picture, if I am not um, sort of having self-awareness, maybe I'm being, reactive towards my triggers. So an example might be like, let's say, I'm married and I'm actually feeling triggered about something that happened in my past, and yet it's getting mirrored in my relationship. So I think it's my husband, I think it's him, it's his problem. But actually, if I had that awareness, I could recognize and heal that it's from my past and it has nothing to do with him, is sort of like an example that I think of when we talk about this.
Yes, for sure. And the fact that whenever you're being reactive because you don't have that awareness, you're living in the past.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
and
Hmm.
I was just going to say, in being stuck in the past, there's no place for the present. The memories that you're making are through the lens of the past, like they're not actually through your core authentic self, which means like it's really difficult to move into a future that looks different whenever we're living from the lens of a past.
Hmm. Yeah, exactly. It's like this constant loop back versus just being in the now. So tell me more about just this particular chapter about being the rocket fuel. Like what sort of inspired you to write this chapter? And just tell us a little bit more about it without revealing everything, because I know we want to read it too.
Right. It's like little tidbits,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. So what inspired me to write this chapter is, I mean, first of all, how we were talking about authenticity. So like that's really my main purpose and mission in life is to help people lead those authentic lives. And so what a better way to reach a large population than to collaborate with like 24 other amazing experts and like
Mhm.
get this out there to the world,
Mhm.
like that's huge. So that's really what inspired me to do that.
Yeah.
And then what was the second part of that question?
Yeah, just a little bit more about, um, you know, just in terms of this particular chapter, we have so many transformative events that can
Mm,
happen to us. Like, what stood out to you in terms of the story that you tell in your chapter?
yeah, so without giving too much away, the story that I tell in the chapter has a basis from a time in my life where I had accomplished all the things that you were quote unquote supposed to accomplish, right? Like
Mhm.
family, I even say like brown picket fence instead of white picket fence, right?
Mhm.
Family, relationship, long term, already had my career, gone to school for 10 years, like, master's degree, all of those things. And just living my life in a very specific way that I was like, oh, okay, this is it. And at the same time, I never felt more suffocated in my life. And so it was really like this moment in life where I had this transformative experience where it literally started with an awareness. And so that kind of seeped into, like, what do I believe? Like, who am I? What are programmed beliefs that I have? What are my true values? Like, am I even happy where I am? Like, and obviously the answer was no. And so I chose this particular story, which we can read more about in the book. Just because it was a literal complete like scrape and rebuild. If you think about it in a building sense, like, let's scrape it down, let's build a new foundation, and then let's go from there and live a life that's true to you and live your purpose so you can move forward and help others live their purpose.
Yeah, that's amazing. And as you talk about that, I really think about, I think it can take a lot of courage to kind of step into that sort of sense of self-awareness. So, let's say someone comes across you and they know that things just aren't really lining up in their life. And yet there can be this sense of like, if I get into that space of self-awareness, like I might see something that I don't like. I may see something that I want to change. And if I change that, it might bring upheaval to my whole life. And so I'm not going to go there. I'm just going to stay over here. So what would you say to someone to help kind of dip their toe into that, going into that self-awareness journey, to feel safe, that like, this is actually going to turn out better than you might even realize if you can take this first step?
Yeah. So I think the first thing is that we're guided step by step. Like spirit, God, universe, whatever it is, source, to people, we're never going to be asked to do more than we're ready for. And not the more than we can handle, right? Like, because that's said a lot, but it's more than we're ready for. And so it's typically looking at a step-by-step process. So it's not going to be like a deep dive into the deep end of the pool and then like you don't know how to swim. And that's where I think it's really helpful to have someone to help guide you along in that process, so that you can slowly start to unravel things. And it's going to be starting with things that like help you to feel more alive, to help your health improve. And so it might even be awareness in the sense of beginning to unpack things that no longer serve you, like old past experiences. And that's a form of awareness, knowing like this doesn't serve me anymore. That doesn't mean that right at this second, because if you're terrified that it's going to cause upheaval in your life, let's start looking at unpacking, because we're not saying you're packing your suitcase. You're unpacking a different suitcase that doesn't even work anymore.
So true. Right.
Yeah.
You're just sort of looking at it. It's a little bit sort of moved. Yeah. I feel like that's a really good point, and just that sense of that we are supported. I feel like that's one of those things that I have to remember over and over again. And that I talk about a lot with people, is just that sense of like, oh yeah, we think we have to do it all alone. And I'm 1000% for having someone like yourself, like as a coach, to help guide us, because then we can feel safe. Like we know someone has our back, like they can see us.
I mean, that's huge.
Yeah, definitely.
And I'll definitely say for me, like people have been that for me along my journey, and probably for you as well, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. So I'm
Yeah.
sort of curious, you have these like amazing backgrounds. Like I'm familiar with emotion code, the shamanic piece, the energy healing. So, in terms of your journey, like what do you feel like is your like your way, or if you were to give someone like a particular tool, like how do these sort of like interact when you are working with a client, just in terms of the emotion code, the shamanic practices that you may bring in?
Yeah. So the big thing for me, and this is why I left the professional counseling field, was because I wanted to integrate the entire person. So like body, mind, soul, spirit. all of the things.
Mhm.
And so all of the different certifications I have or ways that I practice, it's really helping people to, number one, like I said, unpack all the things that don't belong to them, things that they've taken
Mhm.
ownership of that have
Mm.
really, it has nothing to do with them.
Mhm.
So the first stage is, all of that unpacking and making spaciousness.
Mm.
The second stage is more about, like rebalancing and getting some stabilization in your life. And
Mm.
then the third stage is rebuilding. So the emotion code helps a lot with the unpacking, and
Mhm.
like the unpacking of things that we've mentally processed. The
Mhm.
spiritual counseling helps with like literally processing things out. And there's some energy things that come into place there in connection with spirit so that you have support from your team.
Mhm.
Um, as far as the like, I'm like, what? Yeah, the shamanic
Mm.
practicing. I use that a lot if it has to do more with like, so we say like power animal retrieval, right? Like maybe you need a power animal to bring you power, protection, guidance, and healing along your journey so that
Mhm.
you know that you're never alone.
Mhm.
That's huge. We can do some extraction work to remove things from your energetic field and body that have just been there clogging up space. And
Mm.
on the rebuilding, we're looking at the soul retrieval portion of
Mhm.
shamanic practitioner. Like that shamanic healing of soul retrieval
Mm.
is so essential for helping the soul become complete and bringing those fragmented pieces back, especially from trauma,
Yeah.
to where you are a whole person, because you might be missing that childlike part of yourself that
Mhm.
is innocence and joy. And you just are like, for some reason, I don't ever feel joy. Well, we bring that piece back. And then all of a sudden you're like, man, like there's so much joy in my life.
Mhm.
And then as far as the overall energetic healing, that's like, just rebalancing things out in the energetic system in the body and just making sure everything's flowing.
Right. Oh my gosh. I love how you describe that just so seamlessly. It just feels really held. And especially when you talk about like that soul retrieval part, just for, our listeners to really kind of understand that as an example. Like my understanding is like, for instance, you don't feel joy. Well, you go back to, can you kind of describe that a little bit more? Like if someone weren't feeling joy, where would they kind of be going back to in order to kind of retrieve that?
Yeah. And so it's different for different people. A lot of times, the joy, in my experience, has been a childlike part of yourself. So
Hmm.
typically, it's a piece of yourself that is from an age range of, what, like 1 to maybe 12, like that sort of thing. And
Yeah.
so for for me, it's that part of yourself that maybe got put down, or that sometimes there's abuse that takes place, or things that maybe you were a little too enthusiastic and your parents or teacher or someone couldn't handle it.
Hmm.
So in a way, maybe you got like put in your place, and you were taught to like quiet that self and leave it behind. And
Hmm.
so in a way, you abandon that piece of yourself, not knowing that you are also abandoning the quality and piece of your soul that brings you joy and your ability to see that awe in the world.
Right. Yeah, that's so important. So you're kind of going back to that time when you did feel it to sort of retrieve it and then bring it
Mhm.
back into your present space. Right.
Yes.
Yeah. And what I love
And
about this is it's all energy. I mean, I love all the modalities. And this to me is like, I really feel like I have a passion for this because it's our energy. It's our energy body.
yeah, and I mean, it's our soul.
Yes, exactly. Right. It's like literally like for your soul. To me, it's, if you picture, which I would imagine you do, that our soul is so infinite, it isn't just this lifetime. I would imagine you're retrieving it not just for this lifetime, but even for all future, like for the infinite of the soul.
Yes. It's
Yeah.
definitely multi-dimensional, multifaceted.
Yeah,
Yes.
beautiful. So how would you say, coming back to the book, Wealth Codes and your
Yeah.
chapter on awareness, chapter 18. I love that number. It seems like a good one. Just in what ways can this chapter really help change people's lives?
Yeah, so we've already touched on the awareness piece. There is a strategy in there that's helping you
Mhm.
reevaluate some things and like find your voice amongst others.
Mhm.
So that's a huge part. And I think just not really specifically about just my chapter, but just the book overall is, I think, more about changing lives, because we have so many wonderful healers,
Mhm.
counselors, like all of the things, experts coming together, and each one offers a perspective and it's a piece of the puzzle. So we're fitting that, kind of like the soul, right? So we have all the pieces of the puzzle, and then we've made this beautiful book that's a
Mhm.
beautiful puzzle pieced together. And
Mhm.
so I think it really helps change lives by, number one, all the experts coming in and saying, here are some different strategies that help you. Number two, I think that it really resonates with readers because these are real life experiences and we're real people. So
Right.
it's like, we're living this experience and sharing with them, not like talking at them, which
Mhm.
is huge. And then from the abundance, aspect, we're looking at, what, improving financial abundance, improving our relationships. We're
Mhm.
actually having, like, helping people to have personal freedom, activate that vitality, and then connect with spirit. So, I mean, that's pretty comprehensive.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I came into the book because a friend of mine, Laura Mazzata, was in a different book called Sacred Medicine under the same
Mm,
publisher, Brave Healer Productions. And I bought it just kind of to support her. And then when I started reading it, I'm like, this is pure magic. Exactly like
mhm,
you're saying, like the way, this particular team for publishing helps put things together. It's so beautiful. And the stories were just so heartfelt. I really could resonate, and the tools were incredible. So I'm running a book club with another Brave Healer production book on ancestry right now, and I plan to do the same with wealth codes. And I feel like just having those tools and strategies, you have this like wealth of strategies available to create wealth in this variety of areas of your life. Like, where else can you get that just within 280 pages or however long the book is? So yeah,
yeah, it's all in one place.
I
And
know.
I have got to sneak peek the chapters, and yours is amazing. So
Well, thank
some
you. Yeah.
vision
Thank
casting.
you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, I haven't read through everything yet, but we'll be doing the
Yeah.
book club with it, so I can't wait. Well, how can people find you? Like, where do you like to kind of hang out in the
Yeah.
internet zones?
Yeah, so the biggest social media that I'm active on is Instagram, and so that's just Vessel of Divine Wellness.
Mhm,
As far as the website goes, it's vesselofdivinewellness.com.
mhm,
And on that homepage, you can actually go ahead at the top of the page and sign up, and for a free gift. And so the free gift, you just put your name and email address, and the free gift is 5 steps to a more authentic you. So it's kind of that starting off point of, how do
mhm.
I lead an authentic life? And then also on that page, I have a pre-order for wealth codes.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that because it's really just kind of with their free gift, really breaking it down so that it feels manageable. It's not overwhelming. So thank you for sharing that with us. We'll definitely have all of those links in the show notes. And I just really appreciate you being here with us. Is there any last sort of any notes or anything kind of that channels through you to share with our audience here before we go?
I think the biggest thing that I try to emphasize is that everyone is here for a purpose,
Mhm.
and that the biggest gift that you have to share with the world is being your true authentic self, because that's what you're sent here to do. And that's the way that you impact the world, and you impact people, and then they impact the world, and it's a huge ripple effect. And
Mhm.
so, there's a quote in my chapter that people can read at the beginning of it. But I think the biggest thing is, you're not here, like, playing small doesn't serve you, is what I'll just say.
Yes. Oh my gosh, I agree so much. Thank you.
Yeah.
That's the perfect quote. To sort of wrap up our time together. Well, I just want to thank you so much. It's just been such a pleasure to be in this book with you and on this journey with you and to have you here today.
The same. I really appreciate you making the space for this and the space for me. And it's been wonderful.
Oh my gosh. Well,
Much gratitude. Yeah.
yeah. Well, thank you.
Yeah.